Good day, everyone. This is the peaceful revolutionary Sylvain Rochon speaking. I am happy to be with you again this week. I'm a little late because this weekend I was kind of dealing with something really important to me. I'm preparing to write a book. Of course, there's going to be technology involved, and I'm going to be doing that next year, and that may actually mean the rebranding of this channel, but we'll get that. We'll get to that later on when I get there. But I'll let you guys know, and the channel is obviously going to stay open, actually expand in very interesting ways, so don't worry at all. Now, I've been avoiding this subject for a little while, since the November 8th election in the States. I've been following some of the news. I've been looking at things. And I've done posts about politics quite a few times, and fairly recently I've done I posted a video about the democratic process, how democracy actually is obsolete. It's old, it's corrupt, it's kind of dead, it has lots of failings, and I propose a geniocracy. And I'm going to still touch on that today because I will be talking about politics. But what I want to do, I want to talk to a certain degree about President-elect Trump. Since it's the topic of the day, it's a flavor of the month, but I didn't want to be one of those videos that kind of try to capture the popularity of the name and branding. I want people to discover my video with a little bit of a more calm mind, because there's no sense in doing anything if you're all emotional. And this is still, even today, an emotional time for the Americans. I'm Canadian. So I'm north of the border. I'm still influenced by what's going on, but I'm not directly involved with, the policies themselves. So, so I do want to speak with my American friends, as well as everybody else in the world that are feeling, I guess, a sense of doubt and fear and a whole bunch of different emotions, and depending on who you're talking to. I mean, the Japanese are actually quite, for some reasons, they're actually fairly happy that Trump is in position for political reasons that affect them. The Koreans are very concerned. The South Koreans, I mean, the Northern, they don't know what's going on. Well, for the most part, the Americans, they're divided. The Canadians, they're generally apathetic, and we have a nice-looking prime minister. Sorry. So some of them are concerned, some of them not. Most of them are just like, well, there's going to be another 4 years of bullshit and whatever else is going to happen from the States. Anyhow, what I wanted to do today is more like describe the best qualities of leadership. And I pulled a couple of articles that I like, not many. The links are down there to kind of, digest a little bit more on the subject. And you, as the people in the audience, if you will, you can judge President-elect Trump according to these criterias. I will express myself on the subject directly more to the end of the video. But just as always on this channel, I want everybody to make their own damn minds about things, right? You can listen to me and then take it or leave it, and just make your own mind. That's all, okay? So characteristics of leadership that are really important, like for political leaders or corporate leaders, but even more important for political leaders. The first one is you have to have able leadership. Now, what does that mean? Able is, there's the word ability in it, so to have a certain amount of skill, but it's not. It's also about endurance, being able to endure. Being a politician at the level of president in the United States, with everybody's kind of veering their eyes on you, all the political leaders around the world that want to either take from you, abuse you, scam you, everybody's trying to cheat you, they lie to you. You have all these things going on, and this happens also with the inner circle. You have all these people with different agendas because there's a lot of money involved. Salaries are pretty high. There's a lot of companies that are looking in. They want to sponsor, sneakily providing money. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on. Lots of corruption, lots of good things and bad things. You got to look out for your back constantly. It's hard. and it's 24/7. The president is living in the White House, surrounded by all this stuff, surrounded by security. It's constant at all hours. Anything can happen. It takes a lot of endurance. So there's the ability to be able to manage all this, because then you can be worn. If you're not unable, you get worn down. Then your weaknesses start showing, and people can take advantages of weaknesses. So ability is really important. You have to have a really strong leader that is able to take it all, and also being able to manage himself with meditation, whatever he needs, take a break to kind of calm down and stay at the highest level, serving us, citizens, right? So that's number one. Number two, we have 5. Number two, the leadership needs to be intelligent. It's kind of obvious. You're at the top level. You're dealing with really important subjects and you're supported by staff and ministers and a whole bunch of people, for sure. But you need to be able to connect things together to take decisions that would be good for everybody. So you need to be able to see ahead. You need to be able to see the future. You need to be able to identify opportunities and identify also potential failures that could be drastic, that could be critical. So it just simply put, the person needs to be really, really sharp, right? And constantly sharp, which also means avoiding, for the most part, toxic substances, alcohol, drugs, and all that stuff, because that dulls the mind, right? So you want somebody that will avoid that stuff, and, except occasionally for the party. I mean, you need to be able to unwind sometimes, but not a drunkard or a drug addict, right? You know what I mean? Somebody that keeps his intelligence high and alert, sleeps well, and you allow him to do that, because you need that person, him or her, this could be a woman, always, right? To be able to do what he or she needs to do all the time and brightly. So that's really important. A mature leadership. Now, maturity, it's a little bit of a vague thing. I mean, you're kind of talking about the maturity of an adult person that's usually 50 years old or more, but we're talking about people that are they have embraced their careers. They've kind of gone beyond the need for money or recognition. They are there because they're serving the people. They're being altruistic and benevolent because they've done that in the past. They don't need to prove anything to anyone. They're there to do a job, and that requires a certain amount of maturity. We're not talking about ages, although there's a relationship, of course. Like certain people never get to maturity, if you will, and some people mature really quickly because it's just development of a mind and a kind of an ease with oneself and the world and where you fit. But you need a maturity so that they sit back and say, okay, like I could take advantage of this situation for me, for my selfish self. But I don't need that because I'm comfortable with myself and what I'm doing. I'm in this position. I'm going to take the decision that will serve the people. So that's really important for the highest position as leaderships. You work for the people. So you take it allows you to take the unpopular decision, knowing that perhaps in 4 years you'll be voted out, but you're doing it because it's good. It's the right thing to do. And that leads me to actually the next point, which is a good leadership. Let's call it that. And this is about the concept of good versus evil. Some leaders are just toxic because of all sorts of reasons. Their thinking is toxic. You want the opposite of that. You don't want the toxic leader. You want the leaders that are mellow, that are seeking good in people, and they are seeking good within themselves. That produces good results. And again, it ties in with the morality, right? which is, I guess, the final point. You need a moral leader. I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about an ethical leader, somebody moral, somebody that does the right thing because it's the right thing. Just because it's the right thing, right? And many leaders I've seen, for me, that's the main point of failure in politics, and the system of democracy, in fact, because it's all a marketing spiel. Politicians usually take their unpopular decisions at the end of their term when they know they can't be reelected, like at the end of the 8 years, like Obama in the States did a very unpopular move at the very end. He's still in office now, but he did an executive order that I believe, I wasn't prepared for this particular little bit that I'm bringing up, but I believe he eliminated the requirement of doing the Pledge of Allegiance in all the schools, something like that. Anyway, you guys know what I'm talking about. This is fairly recent news. And he did that at the end because it's not popular. It's not something you can leverage to be reelected, and that's part of the reason why the political system has a lot of issues, because people need their salary. They want to keep their position and pride. They want to be well compensated. They want to be seen as benevolent and good and all that stuff. So they don't want to make decisions that will be unpopular, but are needed. Well, we have to understand that these people have ministries and all sorts of experts around them that are feeding them information. They're telling the leaders what is good, what is needed, what would be good for infrastructure, for the energy, for military, for whatever, right? And the politician's mind, he's saying, well, if I do what's good, what you're telling me, I'm killing myself as a politician because it won't be popular. People are going to criticize people that generally don't understand the details because they are not experts of what's going to happen. So we have lots of decisions made by politicians at the highest levels that are popular, but could, in a short term, even if it's destructive in the long term. What we need on many occasions is people that take decisions that are good for the long term, even if it is unpopular in the short term. You can't explain something very complicated to people that are uneducated in that specific field. So of course people are going to be outraged. Oh shit, no, taxes are going to be raised. That's all they see. That's a short-term problem. But maybe it solves something systemic, something very important that the people maybe in 10 years will benefit from it. When people have a very short-term memory and they don't really understand, they don't take the time, all they see is the immediate results on themselves, which is why we have, in politics, we have huge amounts of jobs that are additional just because governments try to increase jobs. And the best way they can do it with the most control is to increase the amount of jobs inside government, because they can control that. But then there's an overflow of bureaucracy and red tape, because all of these jobs are created and all these barriers are created with all sorts of people that feel that they're important, that need to take decisions, and passing it along, and it creates all these bottlenecks, all because a politician at some point wanted to create jobs, and he created a whole bunch of jobs inside some ministry. It creates long-term problems that are costly for a whole bunch of reasons. And then there's some politicians at certain points in time, they say, well, we have to slash a bunch of jobs. Well, they do that at the end of their term, because they know it's going to be unpopular. It happened here in Canada a number of years ago. At the end of a term, like a whole slew of jobs were demolished in government because they were extras. They were draining the economy. But that was just at the end of the term, at the end of an 8-year term. It's like almost 10 years. Can you imagine it? So those jobs that were created early in the term, that had to be slashed out. Like, what a waste. Okay? So So ethical leaders, really important. You can tell I have a beef with that, with with morality as far as leadership. Again, I'm totally against leaders that would take sides regarding religion or any of that type of ethics. Well, I'm not talking about religious ethics. I'm talking about human rights. I'm talking about doing the right thing here. Being the good Samaritan politicians, doing what's right over and above anything else. And in addition, if you are mature, you're okay with that. If you are intelligent, you can see the benefits, so you know it's the right decision. If you are able, you can resist all the negativity that may come to you for taking the right decision in the first place. And you can take it in the gut and keep going because it's the right thing to do, right? So that's really, really important. Now, let's circle and circumvent all these things a little bit. You can kind of ponder on these points now. But let's look at Mr. Trump, and this is going to be a personal opinion, or I guess revelation to you guys. I know it's a sensitive thing, but I always speak my mind. I won't evaluate him according to these points. I'll let you guys figure that out and see if he's a good leader or not. And he certainly has weaknesses, no doubt. Everybody does. Now, the question I'm having as a leader in some elements, in some verticals in my profession, when the election was coming to its end, let's start there. I was looking at Hillary Clinton, I was looking at Donald Trump, and I'm kind of thinking ahead, okay, which leader is going to be better for us, like us meaning humanity, not only the Americans, because the influence of a president is all over the place. And I couldn't help myself but constantly going back to Mr. Trump. And I'll tell you why. And I may have mentioned this before. I don't remember. Anyhow, I'll go at it again. One, he's not a politician. And that's been brought up in conversations post-election that I've seen so far as well. He's not a politician. He's very strong-minded in what he thinks. Whether or not I agree with his platforms and how he's going about it and all that stuff, I can tell you, without going into specifics, I'd say probably less than half of what his approaches I don't agree with. And I guess the other 60% or so I think are terrible approaches. Now now that's really not. So you're kind of asking yourself, like, what are you saying then? So you think he's the better candidate, and most of his platform you don't agree with? I say, yeah, exactly. And again, I'm explaining myself. He's not a politician. I've always said this in the past, I'd rather have a leader that is convinced of what he wants to do and that has straight, unwavering ideology than a politician that's going to say all the right things just to be elected and then do either nothing or avoid the hard decisions and always go for the popular vote and do exactly what I mentioned in the video here. Do the good things to be reelected, and when there's no chance to be reelected, all of a sudden, like for the last couple of months, do a few of the right things that are unpopular that they want to achieve and to create a little bit of a legacy or whatnot in the history books, and then move on and be paid, like whether they get paid when they retire. I think that's terrible. I'd rather have somebody that will take action, just like as I'm in business, and just like a business guy, and Trump is that, right? Take action, take decisions, take the hit. If it fails, it fails, and then you pivot and you go about it again, and you draw. I mean, he has access to the best experts in the world around him. He's selecting his cabinet right now, and it seems from what the media says, and I never believe the media, but anyway, if I base myself on what the media says, some of the people he's choosing are also very, very strong-minded. So in certain aspects of that agrees with his platform. So he's siding with people that are intransigent, people that will plow through no matter what with strength and ability. Again, I don't agree with most of what he wants to do. Well, with 60%. I don't agree with 60% of what he wants to do. But at least, in my mind, that's going to move things forward with two potential results. Result number one, because these people are intransigent, and so is he, it's going to make things worse. Okay? It's going to make things worse. And in that case, because in many ways Trump was elected because people were sick and tired of politicians like me, that's going to just make things blow up in the States. They're just going to say, like, okay, we voted for the non-politician because we wanted something different. Things got more division in the state, more things going wrong, and this could happen really quickly because he's moving fast, boy. Okay? Then there's popular revolt. Popular revolt means very quick reform, and I'm all for it. I'm not hoping for a violent revolution. Never. The name of the channel is Peaceful Revolution, but we do want a revolution. And if there is one in the States, others will follow. The system is obsolete, kaput, corrupt, huge problems with it. I mean, that could be helpful. Short term, really painful. Absolutely. Long term, beneficial. It could be a good thing, ultimately. Okay? Second thing that may happen, because even though I disagree with 60% of his platform, and he's putting these in transition people that are really in line and strong, he is also a businessman, which means very quickly, when there's a failure upcoming, he does pivot, which means you change your mind. So, okay, this doesn't work. This doesn't have the achieved result. Well, immediately let's change it and take another decision, very intransigent, another decision, and go that way. The sharpest and most successful entrepreneurs, without a doubt, are known to take a position and run with it until it fails, and then very quickly switching to something different and learning from it. Trump has done it many, many times. He's failed many, many times. Everybody knows that he's gone bankrupt. There's this Trump University incident that's happened where he was sued and he had to settle, all this stuff. He's going to use it and he's going to pivot it. That kind of reactivity won't be popular. It won't be popular at all. But if it's done right, let's hope, with the right people, without a revolution could in fact revolutionize, because he's pledged to clean up politics in a way. I don't know what that's gonna look like. It's been attempted before, and people have rocking the boat has caused attempts at their lives in the past, right? Remember JFK and others that were trying to do way less dangerous changes, and they got killed for it. But that could be a revolution, could be a Trump-driven revolution from the top down instead of the bottom up. That is also long-term, beneficial, painful, short-term, because it certainly won't be popular. So I believe, and that's why I was rooting for him, not because I like the guy, because I like these two results. We need the world is suffering. We just don't know it because it's been creeping up on us for so many years. The U.S. is not the land of the free. Far from it. It's the land of the oppressed and fearful. And people are feeling it. They just think it's still land of the free because it's part of the songs. It's part of the credo. It's part of what's been told all the time. But as you've been running along as Americans with different politicians, it's been, you're more and more imprisoned in your own country and inside your own minds. You guys need to be free, like really free. And that requires a release. It requires a complete change of all sorts of stuff. And it requires probably like hopefully a short-term pain instead of carrying on this dull creature kind of like ache that is constant over years and dragging it on. No, let's have pain now. Let's suffer it now. Let's make the change now. And do a real change. And no matter what the guy does, I mean Trump, no matter what it does, the future and the power always is held by the people. The people put him there. It was close. We know all about that. Popular vote versus the college. I know, okay? But he's there. He's the one that got elected. Use it. Use it. You have the power. If he goes crazy, where everything goes to shit, rise up. Use that energy. Rise up, and the people will follow you. Go to the street. Shit, I mean, that's gonna provoke a change. The people will change. If enough people rise up, it's gonna change things. And I know, and I like Bernie Sanders. I really like him, and he said the same things. Like if he makes a mistake, if it's like a real mistake, not trying to do the right thing the wrong way. Like the right thing is always the right thing, right? But I mean, like a really fundamentally something wrong, something that's going to be long-term problem. Rise up with Bernie Sanders and others, and take the country back, change everything. Awesome. If Trump is trying to do the right thing, and it's unpopular, well, be unpopular too and support your president for doing the right thing. Agree with him and be unpopular yourself in doing so. Hey, even some journalists, even I was reading yesterday, some journalists even lost their jobs because their belief or their siding with Trump was so unpopular inside the channel or TV channel that they got laid off for not siding with the views of the station. Terrible. But those are the people that stick their ground. You got to stick your ground if you want to be a sheep. Be a sheep. But that's a no power position. It can't be sheep. You need to be, each one of you need to be a strong, able, intelligent. What are the characteristics again? Mature, moral, and anti-destructive leader within yourself, and stand up for what you believe is right. And if Trump is doing what is right for long term and benefiting America, benefiting the world, support the guy. If he's doing wrong, oppose him wholeheartedly. That's your power. And hopefully we'll get the people in North America out of the shithole and great again, whether it's with Trump or without him, or by kicking him out. Do it. It's always about action. Don't think about it. Talk about it and do something about it. That's always your power, and it's your prerogative to actually make things happen. So that's going to be it for me. Hopefully I didn't make too many enemies, and I won't have suits coming to my house and asking me questions. I think it's going to be fine. But yeah, I mean, if you have comments and you want to talk about it, comments are below. I'm happy to respond, and people can have a discussion down there. No problem. We need to take action. So do it. All right, that's going to be it. Ciao for now.